Hello, welcome to PODnas. This is a sports show with some Cajun and Southern flair. I'm Daniel Hawks. That's Jared Roser. Today, we are going to be talking about Will Campbell and LSU's Pro Day in general. We've got some thoughts about the NCAA tournament and the coaching carousel that goes along with it. Let's get into it. Jared, how you doing today?
Doing well, man. Just, keeping my eye over my shoulder. We got a Roomba, and I think it's due to go off here in a couple minutes. So if you hear that little guy coming, I apologize for that. I also noticed you got a Bobo, bro.
I do. Oh, is that a curse show?
I was like, I just said Bobo. I didn't realize. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
What are you gonna do? You gonna blur it out like we're doing?
I don't even know if I have the skills to do that in edit. So I guess,
especially not with only 9 fingers now. Like,
yeah. This is become my
adjusting.
entire personality. So this is now what I do all the time. So yeah.
Shocked.
Don't try and keep 2 kegs away from each other during St. Patrick's Day, kids. That's the lesson, basically. I was working at the bar that I work at here in Chicago. 2 kegs came and met my finger, broke it. It didn't feel great. People thought I was going to pass out. It was St. Patrick's Day is crazy up here. I know it's crazy in Baton Rouge too, but it's a Mardi Gras level of wild on that day. Except I would say like Louisianians are used to Mardi Gras. They have it in their blood. They have it in there. And while Chicago people do too, Chicago is such a big metropolitan. It is the day where everyone tries to fit all their drinking in from about 9 a.m. to about 6 p.m. Like they try and fit all of the Mardi Gras drinking into that one time. And it just becomes an absolute S show, ish show, if you want. So, yeah. So there we go. Now you got a little bit of my life. Yeah, that is true. I would actually agree with that. Let's get into it. So LSU has their pro day. Shockingly, Will Campbell's arms are 33 inches.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Most predictable.
Who would have thunk it? Who would have thought?
That whole deal is so interesting. And Will talked to us after and was, I don't remember how I phrased it in stories I wrote, but it was very on brand for Will to be really blunt and, a little sharp about how he addressed it, but also do it with kind of a sly smile. It's really funny. He said, look, I've been playing football like pretty well. Everybody thought I was a pretty good player. And now because my arms are, 32 and 5/8 inches, like all of a sudden I'm not good at that determines if I'm a good football player anymore or not. Like, I think it's BS. And he went into beyond just saying, look, this is a media narrative and it's not the decision makers of NFL teams don't care as much as y'all think they do. All these teams view me as a tackle, which is what I've been all my life. He went so far as to take shots at the combine measurements were messed up for a lot of people. Like, that's part of why I wanted to measure when I came back down here, is to get a more accurate measurement because the combine jacked that all up. I mean, at the same time, his arm length extended 3/8 of an inch. His wingspan somehow came down slightly, and so
I saw that.
Yeah. I don't really know how the math all works on this. They're just measuring from different places, I guess. But it was really interesting to me for Will to get that aggressive, given that other wrinkle to this, and the fact that quite frankly, measurables do matter to an extent, and I think he's kind of trying to push a storyline that is I think he's going about it in a great way, like the way that he should to navigate this from his standpoint.
At the tape that I have against all of these NFL these NFL talents in the SEC. Like I thought it's been very overplayed. Let him keep sliding and go to the Bengals and protect Joe Burrow. That's what I want.
I don't know that he slides that far.
I don't think he will, but
I don't think he ends up being the like top 4 or 5 pick probably that we were looking at one point. Just, gleaning around all of the mock drafts that have him. I think watching Membu's pre-draft process and pushing Will behind him now slides him down a couple spots, but we talked about it last time, I think like he's still right there as a potential top 10 pick and, could end up some great places. But I think for me too, with the arm measurement thing, Will, keep doing what you're doing and talking your stuff the way you are, because his attitude is part of what makes him great.
Yeah.
He's always kind of had that to his game in terms of his mentality. But overall, big picture standpoint, we hit somewhat on this. The case shouldn't be that measurables don't matter at all, that it's just BS to care about measurables, because particularly at this level, those measurables are based on long-standing track records of data and
Right.
percentages. And
Right.
so franchises are playing those, but there are outliers to those percentages. And so Will's case shouldn't be that measurables don't matter. It's he's an outlier. He is a dude
Yeah.
that is so good at that position regardless that he bucks the trend. The trend is the trend for reasons.
Yeah.
He's just I said we're built different from Mardi Gras. Will is built different. All right, man.
Yeah. Listen, that's just what we do here at Podnos. We literally set up in our shenanigans. We set up stuff for later stories. That's just the thing that we do here. One thing that I did want to bring up though is how Josh Williams did in this pro
Yes.
day, because he crushed it and he was not invited to the combine. But this man came out and ran a 4.45 and had a 42-inch vertical. That would have been second overall at the combine. Do you think that this puts Josh Williams, who I'm not going on a limb, if you're not invited to the combine, I pretty much think that you're going to go into an undrafted range. Do you think this puts him into some day 3, maybe even day 2 combo? I think that's a little rich, but I definitely think he pushed himself into day 3 and possibly early day 3 if someone wants to take a flyer on him.
Yeah, I think Josh went into the week as a guy that some people maybe projected as a late round pick. Some people projected as an undrafted guy that was going to have to find a home on Sunday as some of those undrafted free agent deals started popping off. I think he really solidified himself a draft selection. He was off the charts. I mean, you mentioned he would have been the second amongst all players with that vertical to show some of that explosiveness. In the history of the combine, it would have been the third best running back vertical ever.
Yeah.
He looked smooth as could be running routes out there and catching passes. Broad was good. He hit 23 reps on the bench press, just cranking those things out. Our buddy David Hellman texted me like, man, I didn't realize Joshy was going to go out there and have that type of day. I think he might get drafted now. And I said, yeah, I think he gets drafted. And he was out there looking like a muscle on wheels all day. Just super, super impressive. And then I mean, he surprised himself. He said he hadn't jumped a 40-inch vertical, let alone 42 until the day. And so he was a little bit taken aback by his own performance in some of those areas. He knew he was going to come out and run fast. He knew he was going to surprise a lot of people, but he then went above and beyond even his own expectations. And it was awesome to see for a dude that has come from walk on in 2019, injured that season, has to come back and work his way through the scout team, earn a scholarship, and becomes a leader of that program. And now, an NFL draftee, I think, here in a few weeks.
Hey, good luck to him. Was there anyone else from pro day that kind of stuck out?
Yeah, I thought Mason Taylor with his 4.65 40 as a tight end and 28 reps on the bench press.
Whoever gets him, I think, is going to get a steal. I think he's going to do great in the NFL.
Yeah.
I think he was very much, for some reason, halfway. He was utilized so much at the beginning of the season, and it kind of tailed off. But I don't think that was really to his detriment. I think that was a lot of the game plan stuff and a lot of just how games kind of rolled. But I think whoever gets Mason Taylor is gonna pick a steal out of tight end.
Absolutely. He's the guy that we're certainly going to be talking about, maybe even early day 2 on that Friday night in round 2. That and the 3 guys we're talking about right now, and really, I mean, these guys in general, they're pros already, the way that they handle their business. And Mason, certainly growing up around the game the way that he did, brings a lot of that to the table. Those, I think, were the big 3. Garrett Dellinger had a nice day, the way he moved at his size, a guy that could be a versatile Will Clapp-esque maybe offensive lineman for some teams in a rotation. I thought there were points of the day where Major Burns really helped himself. He ran a 4.5 140 that he was really pleased with, 37.5-inch vertical. Early on in some of the positional work, he had some trouble corralling some balls, and then kind of like he worked through that a little bit, and I thought finished strong. He moved really well out there, and then after the first couple of reps, he seemed like he was kind of lights out to finish the day strong. List goes on. Savion Jones measured really well and ran well, considering that combination of length and solid speed, considering he's up there weighing whatever it is, 280. I think he solidified himself somewhere there in the mid range of the draft. Kyron Lacey and was kind of like major, just hit or miss in some spots, but I think positives overall.
How many LSU players are we looking getting drafted for this upcoming draft weekend?
It's a great question. I think the guys that we just mentioned for sure. Emory Jones will get drafted at some point. Miles Frazier, I think probably similarly to Garrett, maybe sneaks in there somewhere. Miles maybe even a little bit higher. Zy Alexander's going to go at some point.
Yeah.
And I haven't been counting, but I mean,
think that's at 9.
Yeah, we're getting up there toward double digits.
I also just guessed that number, so I don't know. But I was convicted when I said it. So, I mean, I feel like that's.
Yeah. I didn't mention Braden Swinson, who's another like potential day 2, early day 3 type guy. And so, I mean, you're looking
10?
at potentially getting to double digits. The over under might be like 9.5, 8.5, 9.5 type deal.
That makes me want to go look on my local sports betting app and see if there are if you could bet on how many schools get how many draft picks. If you're listening, I know you guys have a lot to do, but do that. Let me bet on that.
Look, if you're listening, if you're listening to this right now, you can't have that much to do,
Hey, moving on. Let's go. We're going to talk about this NCAA men's basketball coaching carousel because it kind of went ham during the first week of the NCAA tournament. Like the madness was just kind of happening all around. So Wade,
the madness was happening in the coaching carousel more than on the outcomes of the games.
No, it was literally chalk for most of the games except Will Wade's McNeese State. They go ahead and pull up a big upset, but then Will Wade, even before the game, had talked about or he took the NC State job, which ACC is a little bit down. I feel like it's a good time to get back in the ACC, and North Carolina's a strong recruiting portal. Will's a very good recruiter. I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing NC State really mess up some things for the Dukes and the Carolinas of the ACC coming up soon.
It hurts to wear this red and white shirt. We've said several times through the last year or however long we've been doing this that we both grew up North Carolina basketball fans, and I think Will's about to be a real problem for the Tar Heels in particular. So ready to deal with that.
Yeah, you got to do the wolf pack. I can't do it with this hand. That's another thing I can't do with this. So moving on to a couple other just notable moves for the coaching carousel. Fran McCaffrey was fired from Iowa, but then picked up the Pennsylvania job. The Hawkeyes brought in Drake's coach, Ben McCollum, and then another former Drake assistant who was at West Virginia left to take the Indiana post. Then Minnesota went and grabbed Colorado State's Nico Medivh, who was just in the NCAA tournament. And also New Mexico had Richard Pitino. They don't need more. He left for Xavier. So there was a flurry of moves, and with some maybe still coming. What are your kind of thoughts on this, especially with how much kind of crap the kids in the transfer portal get, as opposed to, these coaches that are just as much kind of on a transfer portal type carousel. It feels like they are just jumping. Like no one thought Richard Pitino was going to stay in New Mexico. No one thought that.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on this? And I know you had a question for me about it as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you make part of the point there of the amount of hell that the kids get for their alleged, lack of loyalty or this or that, or any criticisms of the student athletes in recent years as we see these adjustments with NIL and the transfer portal and whatnot in the world where coaches have always made big money in our lifetimes and have always been able to move around that freely is always really interesting. I mean, couple of other notable moves too. Ron Hunter heading from Tulane to North Texas. McNeese has replaced Will Wade with Bill Armstrong, a guy who was a former LSU assistant, was at Ole Miss, was at Baylor most recently, and gets back to the boot. And I don't want to frame this in a way that faults the coaches either, because at the end of the day, the same way these kids have one career, one life, have to set themselves up. Coaches, as loyal as they may want to be in spots to their respective, franchises or college programs, they've got to do what's best for them and their family and go climb the ladder and set themselves up as well as they can for life and for potentially generations, and also to challenge themselves and try to get to the top of their profession the same way anyone moves jobs. It's a lot to keep up with for sure. My question to you is, I watch people kind of put under a microscope everything Will's saying on his way out, or right now the big one is watching Kevin Willard at Maryland, who's been under the spotlight of, is he going to that Villanova job? And so everyone's kind of like parsing down to the word and tone everything that gets said in any of these press conferences. From a fan standpoint, what do you want to hear? And I think we may have even talked about this before, but what do you feel like is the right way for a coach who's asked after one of these NCAA tournament games, are you leaving to go take the Villanova job? Are you talking to anyone about the Villanova job? Just as an example with Willard, what do you want to hear from your coach if you're a Maryland fan?
So I actually love the way that Will Wade did it, and how open he was with his team. Yes, as a fan, I'm clamoring for any information I can get on the World Wide Web. There's a lot of good and bad stuff on there. But hearing before the McNeese State first round game, how Will Wade had kind of filled his team in along the way and said like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to keep you updated on the process of, it's basically just kind of like an open, honest, like communication thing. I know sometimes you got to play stuff to your chest and you're trying to get, you're trying to get offers from somewhere. You can't let everything out. But as long as I know and feel, which I did with the McNeese State team, that the guy leading the program is honest and kind of true, or at least upfront with his players in there. So, if someone transferred to McNeese to play with Will Wade, that they know what's going on, so it doesn't, affect their timeline. And if they need to transfer out or anything like that, that's kind of how I would want to do it. And very much so, I heard from players in interviews, and also Will Wade just saying like, I was up front. I was telling them that I was going on these interviews. I was letting them know that. I think it just takes a level of anxiety from, especially if it's before a game, like the Kevin Willard stuff before, the game that they had last night. We're recording this on Friday right now. But the game that they had last night against Florida, like if I'm a player and I'm going into that, I'm going to feel so much more anxiety if I don't know, at least the path where I'm going to go after this. It just will cause a little bit of friction in my head. It'll probably affect my performance. But if I can kind of deal with some of those issues and some of those things that come up, and, then go out there and put my best forward on the floor as a fan, that's what I want to see. And so having that kind of, I guess, step-by-step process with it, I think is the only thing I could really ask for as a fan.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I really do like the way that Will has handled stuff. And I think that any kind of criticism he got along the way, which has certainly been less than I think what we've seen with Willard. I think a lot of people just want to be critical of Will Wade in general. And so
Yeah.
he's going to, regardless of what he said, people are going to snap at it. I wonder though, if other fans, not that you don't have some irrational fan in you, because we've seen it on here before, but
No,
I wonder,
I don't.
I wonder,
I'm pretty even kilter.
I wonder if other fans feel the same way, as much as thirsty as fans are a lot of times for information, and as much information is now out there in the social media age, and how much that kind of feeds into a vicious cycle. I wonder if I wonder kind of percentage play type dynamics if other people would feel the same way of, well, as long as the kids know, as long as you're like being upfront with the players, then I'm good. Whether or not I know at all.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I do want to like I want to know that kind of stuff, but like as a fan, like I especially with this like current age in the NCAA, like I'm just kind of expecting everyone to leave. So I'm not
I've been hurt
expecting people
before.
to stay there. Yeah, I've been hurt before. And just
Trust
like
issues.
we talked about before we started recording, Caleb Love was on a national championship team at North Carolina and transferred out. So like even what we think is the best situation may not be the best situation for the player in their mind. And I've just kind of got in my head that no situation is a good situation for an 18 to 23-year-old kid. Call me crazy.
Yeah.
They don't know what they want, and their wants change on a dime.
Look, that's the case for the adult fans that are
No,
clamoring
not
on
me.
Twitter.
Not me. My views stay intact, and they never falter. They stay one way. No ins and buts about it. So
You mentioned the Caleb Love thing, and that kind of speaks to. I mean, I told you that example when talking about the player transfer portal dynamic as we watch some of these LSU guys enter the portal, and I'm watching some LSU fans get reeled down really quickly. Certainly fans of other programs eager to chip into that spiral and get on
oh, if you
LSU
wanted me to
fans'
get
cases.
chippy, I'll get chippy. LSU fans who are getting about this, they won 3 games in the SEC. Whoever wants to leave can leave. Okay. Whoever wants to go, just can go. All right. Just listen, it wasn't working. And if they're going to go get someone else in the transfer portal and a kid knows that, and they know that they may go from third in the rotation to eighth, then leave. Go find an opportunity elsewhere. I wish the best for you, but it wasn't working. So why are you mad that they left?
I'm not willing. I mean, that there's a lot of sense to that. I'm not willing to jump into just go. This was terrible. Get out, go on, do your thing. Because I think part of the thing that people need to keep in mind too, and I'm not saying this from a place of intel and saying, oh, one of these guys is going to come back, but there are guys that enter the portal, look around, and then end up coming back to the school that they were at before. But the whole dynamic of, okay, now 4 LSU players have entered the portal since the portal opened earlier this week. That's just college sports now. I mean, your point earlier of everyone leaves or at least test those waters. And that's where I mentioned Caleb Love as a guy that we watched beat rival Duke in a Final Four game 2 years ago. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go to Arizona now.
Yeah.
From one of the bluest of bloods in North Carolina. And so I think the most important thing for LSU fans right now to realize is this is just the first phase of the transfer portal where you see some names entering and no one has made the move your direction yet. And so this is not a sign that all of the talk of there's going to be NIL money for McMahon and company to work with and rebuild this roster. This isn't a sign that that's not true. This is just the nature of the calendar. When the football portal opened in the winter, people were getting worried about, like, why did this LSU guy enter the portal? Why did this LSU guy enter the portal? And then you wait until the here's my next landing spot phase of it all. And LSU lands 16 fantastic portal additions and is the number 1 transfer portal class in the country. And so just have like a little bit of patience. Don't feel like the sky is falling on LSU basketball. None of this has been a surprise thus far. You have to see it's kind of like the yeah, I mean, I was about to say it's the reverse of McLovin. It is the McLovin. It's not worried about the going in the portal. It's worried about the coming.
Yeah.
Who's coming to town, man? That hasn't happened yet. Give it time.
Oh, what a great way to end that segment.
Had no idea that was coming until I was midway through the sentence.
Hey, all right. Finally, let's do some NCAA tournament recap thoughts. Jared, who you got? How's your bracket looking?
Started really poorly because I tried to take some swings. I should have thought more about this with the portal era and whatnot, but tried to take some hefty swings on some early upsets, which obviously proved awful. But I picked Florida as my national champion. I have all of my Final Four teams still intact, and so everything's still ahead of me, really, as long as Golden
I
and those guys keep winning.
I have Florida in the Final Four. One of my Final Four teams got booted last night. I could not allow myself to bet for Duke. I just couldn't do it. So I had Duke versus Arizona. I had Arizona winning. Obviously, that did not work out, but I did pick Texas Tech. So I still have 3 or 4 right now. We'll see. I got Michigan State winning it all. I think I got Michigan State, Florida State. I had a feeling with this Izzo. I had Tennessee making the Final Four as well. So, and I believe Texas Tech. So,
yeah, my 4 are Florida winning, Michigan State in there. I ended up taking Tennessee to beat Houston and get in there. I don't feel great about that one right now, but we'll see how they play later tonight against the Wildcats. And then I kept thinking, is this Alabama team going to shoot its way past Duke potentially? Is Cooper Flagg a little bit more banged up going into the tournament? And maybe by the second weekend, he has trouble. He looks great. He looks every bit of everything you could want him to.
Yes.
I
hate it. I hate watching Duke, but I love watching Cooper Flagg play.
He's so dang good. I did end up taking Duke to the Final Four, but then taking Tennessee to beat them, just hoping that Duke would lose somewhere along the way.
Tennessee's defense is so good.
Happily root against them the whole way.
Yeah, Tennessee's defense is so good, and if you catch them on the right day, I think they can beat anyone. I just don't know. Sometimes their offense gets pretty stagnant. So I've watched way too much Tennessee. My bar here in Chicago has become a Tennessee bar, so I've watched them a lot.
I don't wish a whole lot of well for the Volunteers in any sport, but if there were a time for me to come visit your new bar or your now Tennessee partnered bar, I probably should come in the next week or two while I'm hoping the Volunteers make the Final Four.
I think you should actually. And it's going to be like 65, 70 here today. It's perfect, man. Come on down. Now it could be like 30
easing
tomorrow.
Your way right towards summer shy. Yeah.
Exactly. That is all we got for you today. Remember, you can follow us on Louisiana versus All Y'all's YouTube page. You can watch this there. Also on Twitter, LA versus All Y'all. And on Instagram, you can find LA versus All Y'all and also PODnas _LA, where we've got a bunch of stuff that you can follow. Please like, share, comment. The only way that this is going to grow is with you guys. So I would appreciate and love if you guys could just, give us a little love on the onlines. We'd love to see it. Jared, do you have anything else for the people before we get out of here?
That's about it, man. Just looking forward to the rest of the NCAA tournament. Getting out to Dallas next weekend for OT7 with that Flow 7-on-7 team. And so some good things ahead as the spring kicks up some more.
Hey, let's do it. And we'll be here to update you on everything that is Louisiana sports. But until next time, that's all we got. PODnas out.